What's going on, everybody? It's Justin Gazza, and this is Living and Moving to Seattle, Washington. This is the channel where we deep dive on everything Seattle, give you the nitty-gritty, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that you need to know about living, working, sleeping, playing right here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And in this video, we're gonna follow up. We're gonna do a house hacking Seattle 101 because I get a lot of questions about this. And I want to kind of break things down for you about what it can look like to house hack right here in Seattle. So on this channel, we do a lot of kind of introductions to the neighborhoods and give you some details and information about what it's like to live here, because we work with a lot of folks that are relocating. And if you're in that situation, go ahead and reach out to us, shoot us a call, give us a text, and we'd be happy to help you. We're helping all kinds of people make that move from all over, from New York, from Texas, from California, coming over here to Seattle. And we want to do a great job for you too, but we can't help you if you don't reach out. In this video, we want to talk about house hacking. This is basically house hacking 101 because I want to be really clear and concise about what that can look like. Say you're in your, 20s or 30s and you want to be a real estate investor and you want to know some tips and tricks on how to get into the market, or you're coming from someplace else, you want to get your foot in the door here in Seattle and you want to make it sustainable, but you've got a mind for being a real estate investor. So sometimes the best way to do something is slow and steady, right? You can't just go pick up a portfolio of apartment buildings out of nowhere and have that work for you. That's not the case for most people. Most people, how they end up becoming a landlord is they buy a home, they live in it, they love their house, they outgrow it, and they go buy something else, and somehow they decide, hey, you know what, let's keep it. Let's keep that previous home. We don't need to sell it. Let's keep it as a rental. So then now they became a landlord. Maybe in the back of their head, they had that idea that they always wanted to be a landlord, and that's a good way to do it, to move in. When you move in, you get preferred interest rates when it's your primary residence, and you can put less down. So something we're going to talk about is the down payment situation. But if you were to buy a home every 3, 5, 7 years and keep them all, over the course of a decade, you could build yourself a nice little real estate portfolio. It's a really great way to do it and get in for a lower down payment. Now, when we talk about house hacking, and you can kind of do the same thing. There's some little tips and tricks that you can do along the way to do that, but you've got to have a mind for it. Not everybody wants to be a landlord. The other second most common way that people accidentally become a landlord is that someone in their family leaves them a house. Somehow they inherit a home. They don't know what to do with it. They decide to rent it. So in this video, we're going to break down basically the 4 strategies that allow people to kind of come into house hacking, what to look for, what to do, and how to organize that. And so before we jump into that, just want to knock out a couple of things. I got my notes here. I don't want to miss anything for you. I want to get into it. So if someone had come up to me in middle school or high school and said, hey, go become, get into technology. This is, you're going to make 6 figures or multiple 6 figures, have a great W-2 job, get all those benefits, and then you'll be able to take this course of how to get into home and invest in real estate, I might have paid a little bit more attention. Now, although I heard people talking about technology and computers and and programming, didn't really understand what that was going to mean for the future, right? So if somebody sat down and said, hey, here's a plan step by step that you can do this, I might have paid a little bit more attention. So I'm going to lay out kind of what that looks like. It doesn't matter if you're a programmer or whatever you're doing. If you have a great W-2 job and there's room to move up that corporate ladder, increase your pay overall and continue, I'm going to submit to you. I know a lot of guys that want to be real estate investors and they're planning on quitting their W-2 job. Now, I'm going to tell you, please, 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 if you're in that boat, don't do that, because when you have a W-2, it is much easier to get approval for a mortgage. The banks love that stability. They want to see that. So your W-2 is a tremendous asset when you're going to do this. So you kind of have to have a both and. You're doing your W-2 job for whatever company, making, whatever that income looks like. And then you're gonna also be spending some of your free time no longer watching Netflix, no longer cruising YouTube, but you're gonna be looking for your next real estate investment, right? And then when it comes to house hacking is all about moving into that home and then doing something different with it. So again, we've got 4 strategic ways that I'm gonna show you right here in this video to build wealth through real estate. I'm gonna hit every single one, talk about the pros and cons, and then show you a little bit about what that could look like for your wealth building journey through real estate. But before we get into that, I want to talk about setting goals, because especially here in the Seattle market, it is, it's a coastal, West Coast market. The houses compared to, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or other places around the nation, right? There's a difference in pricing. And when you're when you're moving in for yourself, not a real estate investor, but when you're moving in for yourself, you have some different down payment options. Now, this is not a low money down or a no money down type of scheme. This is just tactical and practical ways for you to get into a home, control that asset, and then build from there. And so let's talk about goal setting. For most people, house hacking means a couple of things. It means subsidizing their current mortgage or their mortgage, helping them lower that payment so that they can continue to save more money. Again, they're gonna work at their W-2 and increase and try to get promotions and pay raises, and then have somebody else supplement or subsidize that mortgage for them so that they can continue to save money faster for their next place. It just lowers their monthly costs and helps them out. So now when you are a real estate investor, a lot of times if you're going to get a mortgage for a second home or an investment property, the bank is gonna charge you, part of the requirements is going to be 25 to 30% down on that purchase. So if it's a second home, if it's a vacation property, if it's a fourplex, triplex, duplex, any of those things, you're gonna have limitations on those loans. That's why when you move in, and I'm not opposed to that, I think that's great. The better the equity position you have in your home, the more you can weather any storms that come, because the market fluctuates. It's not you don't day trade real estate. It's a long-term investment. And so you want to be positioned for that. And now when you're moving in as your primary residence, there are other opportunities where you can put down as little as 3, 5, 7, 10% down and be able to get in and control that asset. And what's great about that is that that's kind of the leveraged idea of investing in real estate. You get to control the entire asset for only a portion, putting in a portion as your down payment, where in the stock market, if you want to control the asset, you have to buy dollar for dollar what that is. And the unfortunate truth about the stock market is you can't show up to their office, paint the fence, renovate the kitchen, and make that stock price go up. But with real estate, you can build a fence, put in landscaping, renovate the kitchens and the bathrooms, and you can force that appreciation of that asset into a higher echelon, right? And so what we're talking about is when you go to invest in a property, typically the bank is gonna say, hey, you're a great partner in the deal, but we need you to put 25 to 30%, 35% down in order to control this asset. Whereas if it's gonna be your primary residence, you can get in for 3, 5, 10% down. So the reason I bring that up is, again, if you can put more money down, that might be the best case scenario for you. Get in, your payment's gonna be lower, and then you're all the better for it, right? But if you're just stepping into something and this is the direction you wanna go, you absolutely can put a little bit less down depending on market conditions and get control of that asset. So that's the first part. The second thing is you're gonna have to want it. So with setting goals, right, like we talked about, first thing is not low or no money down. The second thing is you have to want to be a landlord. You have to see this vision of the future where you're going to give up some of your privacy to house hack, right? And the reason I say that is not everybody's willing to do that. Not everybody's willing to bring in roommates and rent by the room. Not everybody's willing to buy a duplex instead of a single family detached home and share a wall. Now, I gotta tell you, if you are considering a townhouse in Seattle, you're gonna share a wall. Why not consider picking up a duplex where you own both sides anyway, right? And then you rent out the other side, right? But you're going to give up some element of privacy in order to do a house hack. You're moving in, you're sharing rooms, or you're sharing a wall. So you have to be open to that idea, right? We can't all just have our cake and eat it too, and like I said, just go out and buy apartment buildings. That's not usually where people start. So most people aren't willing to give up that privacy. The third thing that we have to understand is real estate is not stocks. Now, a lot of folks get in their mind, they're on the apps, they want to invest in crypto, they want to invest in the stock market, they're getting into meme stocks, they're looking for a short-term solution, quick money. Real estate, if you have that mind with real estate, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble because you're talking about a very large asset. So whenever I think about real estate, I want to think in terms of decades, not months or days, right? 7, 10, 15 years. That's really what we're thinking about when we're talking about controlling an asset. We want to have a long-term view of this. And when I meet with folks that are looking for their next best home, they're looking to upgrade, they're looking to sell their condo and move into a single family home, I always want to make sure, hey, is this another stepping stone home, or is this your trophy home? Is this the dream home, right? Because if it's a stepping stone, how long do you see that? Are you going to be there at least 3-5 years? I don't want to have somebody move into a house that only plans on being there 1.5 to 2 years and then expects to be able to sell it for a lot of money. Afterwards, that's typically not how markets work. It takes a little time for them to appreciate. So again, not a low or no money down. We're not talking about that. I am very comfortable 20-30% in, but if you're in a situation, 10%, very cool. Get in, control that asset. Second thing, you've got to want it. So you've got to want to be a landlord, right? You have to have a mind for it. It has to be something that you want to do so that you can go out and make that happen for yourself. Third thing, real estate isn't stocks, right? We have to have a long-term view of real estate. Now, again, with those real estate, you're really starting to see appreciation and cash flow in those 10, 15, 20-year marks. And so you have to have that decade kind of view of real estate. So the other thing with setting goals and kind of understanding the background of getting into this is don't just buy a home to buy a home. You want to think about what's your game plan, what are your exit strategies, what is your overall game plan to be able to ride things out. Again, like I said, more money in up front, more equity in up front allows you to weather some storms. Cash flow allows you to weather some storms. So if you're just getting in and you're coming in at 3, 5, 10% down and renting out the rooms, that allows you to weather some storms because you have some people coming in. But if you've got a great W-2 job, and you're able to afford the mortgage without roommates, it's only a benefit when you're able to give up a little bit of privacy and move people in. So the only problem, that people run into is they think about, oh, what if the prices go down? What'll happen if we lose 10% of value or this? Traditionally, Seattle real estate has a tendency to appreciate at just over 6% in a trend line. Now that doesn't mean that there's some fluctuations up and down, because it always can happen, but over the long term, it's a win. So if you think long term, you're going to be okay. And if you don't sell when there's a downturn, you're going to be okay. And I bring that up because I think I spoke about it before in another video where there's a gal I know that owned 3 condos in one building, and she got caught in the 2008 downturn and she wasn't able to sell anything. So she had to figure out how to keep them and keep making her mortgages and how to make it work. And when I spoke to her, she told me that not being able to sell was the best thing that ever happened to her. So now she's got those set up as long-term rentals. One of them's a corporate rental, one of them's a vacation rental, and I think the other one is just a standard long-term rental, but they all have great leases on them, and she's crushing it. And she's so thankful that she didn't lose those houses or sell those when things got rocky. She had to switch the way she was thinking about it, figure out a way to make it work, and now it's the best thing that ever happened to her. The fifth thing on this is that My personal perspective is that if you've got a mind for it, you do your first one and it works, don't let that be your last one. Keep after it. Figure out a way to get another one under your belt, another one under your belt. Do that, you know, kind of marry the 3 to 5 year buy a new place plan with your house hacking plan. If you are able to bring in some roommates, have a place pay for itself, save, and then in 3, 4, 5 years buy another place, do the same thing, and you can do that while supplementing your mortgage as you go, and then keep each place as a long-term rental, you're gonna be so better off. And so that is kind of a tried and true strategy. You know, if you're not willing to give up your privacy to do that, that strategy just works if you're gonna move in, keep it, and then buy your next place and keep it as a rental as well. But obviously, if you can get more money coming in, the better off you're gonna be. That's just financial, it makes sense, right? If you have more money coming in, you're doing better. So think about that. So those are kind of the caveats of getting into house hacking. This other piece of that puzzle is going to be setting your expectations and your goals with it. So we want to be really clear on, hey, am I the kind of person that wants to do this? Am I willing to give up some privacy? Does this sound like a way that I want to build wealth through real estate, right? It doesn't work for everybody. I have clients that have done it. Personally, I haven't done it. Our place, the place that I've got, we are set up with another suite in our place that we could rent out if we wanted to get into house hacking and do that. But right now, we've got that suite set up as an office, right? So, like I say, it's not for everybody, but it might be for you. And I know that clients have done it, and I've worked with them, and it works great. So here are a couple of things to think about when you think about your expectations. So again, I said, you know, the cliche, it's hard to have your cake and eat it too, but you want to kind of know what you're getting into and what to expect. Traditionally, we hear a lot of real estate investors talk about how Seattle isn't a cash flow market. The reason they say that is because some of the homes are a little bit more expensive than nationally, and in order to get in with your down payment and have that home cash flow, you have to have a significant down payment. And that's why earlier in the video, I was just talking about how I'm not opposed to coming into something with 20, 30% down to make it work. But if you only have 10 or 15% down, you can still get control of that asset. Seattle kind of has been that market where if you want to get great cash flow from the start, you've got to come in with a higher equity position in the form of a down payment. Now you can go out, you can search the internet, you can do all kinds of homework and wonder, gosh, what is a good cash flow position? For some people, it's $50 a month. For other people, it's $100 a month per door. That's kind of what they're looking for when they go and invest in real estate. House hacking isn't the same thing. House hacking, your goal is really just to subsidize your mortgage commitment, right? It really is just to lower your mortgage on the onset so that you can continue to save at a faster pace. So you're not really, most people when they house hack, they're not coming in thinking that they're gonna buy a 5-bedroom house, live in 1 bedroom, rent out the other 4, and be able to pay the whole mortgage. Although it could be possible, but you've got to kind of understand that most people are just lowering their rent, or excuse me, they're lowering their mortgage payment so that they can continue to save faster for their next place. So one of the examples that I like to give is that, let's just imagine that you're gonna buy a triplex. I like a triplex because it's 3 distinct units, it makes it really easy to kind of understand. And in this triplex, maybe the rooms aren't all exactly the same, maybe there's some differentiators. Maybe there's a studio and then there's 2 bedrooms, right? So imagine that you're gonna move into the studio. You're gonna take one of the 2 bedrooms and you're gonna do a short-term rental through whichever company you like, short-term rental, and then the other 2 bedroom you're gonna hold up as a long-term rental strategy, right? So you're gonna move in somebody there with a year-long lease. Maybe you're gonna manage it, maybe you're gonna hire property managers. Whatever that looks like, that gives you an idea of what is possible. Those 2 rentals are gonna help subsidize and lower your mortgage to pay for that entire asset. Now, if you can do that and move into 1, and you can increase your savings, and realize, hey, it took me my whole life to get to this number one, but I bet if I take a look at my receipts, if I watch my money, if I pay attention. I had a guy go through this exercise where he saved all of his receipts for a month and he found $1,000 a month that was just going out into the ether. So imagine if you just took a little time, maybe cut out your Netflix or cut out your DoorDash or made some meals at home, and you found another $1,000 a month that you could put into savings for your next place. You could get that short-term rental money, put that into savings for your next place, get that long-term rental money, put that money into savings for your next place, right? You have to imagine, how can I do this? How can this work, right? How can this happen? It's far better than, well, I don't know, where's the money? I'm not really sure, maybe it could work. Well, how? If it was gonna work, how would it work? If you were gonna do this, how would you do it? That's the question, right? And then imagine what it would look like, save those receipts. I promise you'll find more money than you realize, and you'll be able to do this a lot faster, right? So if you're able to do that and get into that triplex, control that asset in Seattle, triplex, gosh, that could be $1.5 million, $1.4 million. Now you're controlling that whole asset and you're getting into your next place. You could easily spend that on a house here in Seattle, no problem at all, or you could have this asset, right? We're talking about house hacking. We're talking about stepping stones. We're not talking about your trophy house or your forever home. And that's why I brought up earlier, you have to think about, are you willing to give up that privacy? If you're with a significant other, are they willing to give up that privacy? Are they willing to take a step back to take a few steps forward? All right, so let's break down the 4 strategies. I mentioned the triplex earlier. That's clear cut. Your plexes, duplexes, the triplexes, fourplexes. In the eyes of a lender, those are all considered single family homes, which means that you can get in, depending on market conditions, for as little as 3, 5, 7, 15% down, but you've got to know your numbers, because when you put less down, your payments are going to be higher. If you can come in with more money down, you're going to lower those payments. Pretty simple concept, pretty easy to understand. So let's break down kind of the 4 concepts that you can run with. I'm going to start with the easiest, and I've talked about it before, and it's so simple. It's just rent by the room. You buy a home, maybe you're not in the core of Seattle, maybe you're out somewhere in the suburbs, Lake Forest Park, some of these places that you can get into that have 4 or 5 bedrooms. You find a place with multiple bathrooms so that you can have a suite where you can charge more because they have their own bathroom, and you rent out by the room. I had a client, a friend of mine, who's done this and was able to find a 5-bedroom house and be able to rent it out by the room to interns and other people at his work, and was actually able to pay for the whole thing. He was able to save his whole paycheck so that he could go out and buy another one. Rent by the room, I've seen it done in Seattle in townhouses, where you buy a townhouse where every bedroom has its own bathroom, so they're little suites, and you're able to charge more. Seen another guy do it in Fremont. Really, really easy, right? That's the most basic concept, is you're getting roommates, That's the basic concept. You're getting roommates to help you lower your monthly mortgage payment and subsidize that. And then you've just got to Excel spreadsheet yourself or Google sheet yourself, and to understand where that's money is going. I always, when I work with folks and all my friends, I don't believe in extra money, right? It all has a purpose. But if you're not paying attention to it, it's going to run away from you. So you've got to know how much is coming in and what you're doing with it, right? So that's the easiest one, rent by the room, easy enough. The second, we've already talked about duplex, triplex, fourplex. All of those, in the eyes of a lender, are going to be considered single family. Once you get up into 5 units, they start calling that a commercial, and it's very different. But you can get into a duplex, triplex, or a fourplex. They are fairly rare, but they are out there. You get a little bit more privacy because you can just move into one of the units. If you're really gonna go after it and you wanna capitalize the most, you're gonna look at being in one of the smaller units and renting out the nicer unit to somebody else so that you can get that cash flow coming in, right? You can get that income coming in to subsidize your mortgage. Really simple and really easy, right? Very clear concept. The other way to do it is to marry some things together and do some kind of vacation rental arbitrage. Now with vacation rentals, some of those places will let you rent out a room in your house to someone for a price as a vacation rental. You can set it up, stage it beautifully, have all that furniture in there, and rent it out. Now, again, that's the least amount of privacy, is to have somebody rent a room from you. When I traveled all around Europe, definitely stayed in a lot of rooms that way. The next would be to do some sort of renting of a unit, right? You can rent out your whole unit if you have a triplex or fourplex. Easy to do. In Seattle, there's some rules about how many vacation rentals you're allowed to own, so you got to be cognizant of that, but you're able to do it. And then the fourth strategy that we see that gets a lot of attention is called a BRRRR strategy, BRRRR, for repeat. So buy, rehab, rent it, refi it, repeat it. So you're going to buy a place, you're going to renovate it, you're going to rent it out, and then you're going to refinance it, and then you're going to go find another one to repeat it. Now, the only reason I bring up BRRRR on this list is because a lot of guys want to get into that, or gals want to get into that, and want to buy a place that's less than the market value of the neighborhood, and then work to fix it up and rent it out. My personal, live-in flips are hard. Live-in flips are, you're living in a construction zone, you're making it hard. The whole idea of a house hack is to make it your primary residence and move in. BRRRRs are a great strategy if you're buying a home that you're going to be able to renovate quickly. You've got the skills to pound some nails and put up some cabinets and that sort of thing. Or maybe you've got a great crew that can do that kind of thing for a long-term rental. But insofar as house hacking, the BRRRR really isn't the best strategy because you're going to be living in a construction zone. It's going to take you longer to rent out those rooms. You'd be far better off finding a place that's move-in ready, maybe has rental grade finishes versus the nicest stuff, but at least you can start renting right away. And then the last strategy is, and I don't recommend this one either, but Seattle has gone through a lot of zoning changes, so there's a lot of future value in property that would allow you to buy a single family home and then convert, all legal beagle, do everything that you need to do, convert the basement to its own unit, or convert the attic to its own unit, or sometimes even, depending on the lot size, to build a detached additional dwelling unit, they call them DADUs, where you can build another little 2-bedroom something on your property, and then you can, again, vacation rental or long-term rental that property. Again, I don't super recommend it because you're putting in a lot of upfront capital to be able to get into something that may have some future value. I'd rather see, if you were a staunch house hacker, do the townhouse or the home where every place has its own bedroom, and then also maybe look at duplexes and triplexes, fourplexes, that sort of thing. If you're here in Seattle or moving out this way and you have any other questions about house hacking, reach out to me, give me a call, shoot me a text. We're always glad to connect. Obviously, I work with people that are doing this every single day. A large portion, of folks are just moving out here that are relocating. We love working with those folks too. If you watch this video all the way to the end, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Let me know that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, drop them down below in the comments. And like I say, if you don't reach out, we can't help you. We're always looking forward to connecting with folks. So please reach out. It'd be great to chat with you. And we'll see you in the next video. All right, talk to you.